Afternoon. This is Critical Talk with Professor Amina Al-Din. And today I would just like to talk about something that's on all of our minds, but we show it, we talk about it to our close friends, but we don't really talk about it. And that is our mental health, especially during this pandemic. I would venture to say that our mental health is critical when there's no pandemic. But since we're in the midst of one, that's irrelevant. We have noticed loads of things: increases in marital discord, increases in suicide rate, increases in folk asking for medication for depression and anxiety when they can't handle it anymore, and others who don't ask but sink further into anxiety and depression. All of us are paranoid, but some of that is good, reasonable paranoia, and others of it is not. We need to come to talk, and we need to talk about our spiritual dislocation in addition to all of the other things that are happening around us and are real causes for anxiety and depression. So today I have with me Dr. Saeed, who obtained her doctorate from the Texas School of Professional Psychology in Dallas. Her doctoral research studied the attitudes among Muslim Americans towards psychotherapy. That must have been a real winner. And the remains and this remains an area of interest. She worked at the Bill Center. She's been there since 2014. Her work primarily has been with individual adults, couples, and adolescents, dealing with the variety of mental health concerns that we all have, such as depression, anxiety, bereavement, especially bereavement during this time of COVID, marital discord, adjustment, infertility, addictions, surviving abuse, and many other issues, all of which I can't cover today, but I'm going to ask Dr. Saeed to entertain my inquiring minds want to know attitude at another later time. Welcome, Dr. Saeed.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Oh, no, the honor is all mine. And I had to make a decision as to whether I wanted to do a public like version of a therapy session for myself who's going crazy, or if I wanted to just sit back and see if we can make um our way through this. So my first question is
Mhm.
uh the importance of therapy. I think in all of the ethnic groups that make up a large Muslim community, an exceptionally diverse one, everybody runs from therapy.
Yeah.
Therapy is for white men and women who have loads of money and can spend $150 an hour laying on somebody's couch who's ignoring them, like in TV. Talk about the importance of therapy. Why is it important?
You really hit the nail on the head when you said that. I have so many clients who come to me with the feeling of shame for being there,
Yeah.
that this is not for us. We don't do this in our culture. Muslims don't do this. Nobody in my family's ever done this. I'm hiding this from my spouse, from my parents, from my kids. Because exactly what you said, that this is a white thing, this is a Western thing, this is
Right.
something, a rich people problem.
Yeah.
You're supposed to pray, you're supposed to turn to your family, you're supposed to work hard, and things should be fine. And everybody gets down sometimes, you shouldn't need therapy. I'll admit that I'm biased, but I
Um,
genuinely believe that therapy can be of benefit to anyone. I don't think you need to have a mental health problem or be in the middle of, grief or a specific traumatic incident or anything like that to benefit from therapy.
right.
Therapy is important because the purpose is to help an individual gain insight, learn to make confident decisions, learn to feel good about themselves, and understand what they've been through so that they don't continue to make the mistakes that hurt them.
Well, given that, so therapy can be just, I got this person to talk to who's not a relative, because if you have a problem, the last person you want to go to is somebody in your family, because then it's a whole bunch of other drama that you may not want to deal with. Prayer, I think, is good, but prayer doesn't answer you back in the way that a therapist does. Okay. And,
Prayer and
and,
therapy are
and
different things.
huh?
Prayer and therapy are not, they're the different things.
Exactly. They're not
One,
competition,
right.
you know? Um, so I think that in culturally, it has said that, uh, if there's something wrong with you, is it in the genes? And if it's in your genes, then it must be in my genes, you know? And are we uh, uh, putting together a whole family line of people who are borderline all the time? And one thing can knock them over. And I know, for example, that Muslim families that have kids who have mental distress, in addition to perhaps mental illness, uh, will hide that kid so other kids in the family can get married, because there is an association. Well, if one has it, then everybody in that family must have it. And oh my God, I can't. I you can't say at work that I'm having mental issues. It's only been recently that there's something called a mental health day. I need to take a mental health day. And it could be the rest of you all get on my nerves so bad. I just need a break.
You're absolutely right. And the stigma goes so far that when you think about, for example, language and the language that we use to describe, needing a mental health day, even
Yeah.
In a lot of the languages that Muslims come from, the cultures that Muslims come from, there aren't even words for these things.
Yeah.
So, for example, I grew up in an Urdu-speaking family,
Right.
and it's the word that you would use for somebody unstable, for example, is the same as the word for crazy. There's only one word.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we use the English terms.
Yeah.
So I think that really speaks to the lack of understanding that comes in the culture, not necessarily lack of compassion or lack of faith, but understanding that this is not just something that somebody could snap out of, or that they are trying to be this way or they want to be this way, versus the same as there is really for any physical medical condition,
Right.
that it's something that's beyond you and it can be controlled. And yes, it's from Allah, but we also have a responsibility to seek cure and seek treatment and seek knowledge.
Absolutely right. So, okay, here I am, Dr. Saeed. Crazy as a bed bug. I don't think bed bugs are crazy, but that's just going
That's
for
a
it.
new term for me. Okay.
I know. And I want to know, um, I know you're a doctor, but I need to know, who do I seek? What are the different kinds of professionals out there?
Excellent question. First question I get asked most frequently is, what is the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist? So I'll start there. So first of all, a psychiatrist is a medical doctor. It's somebody who went to medical school, same as your, general doctor, pediatrician, and went through the same 4 years of medical school, but then their residency, their specific training was in psychiatry. Psychiatrists prescribe medication. If you're admitted to the hospital, it would be under a physician, so possibly a psychiatrist. I'm a psychologist, so that's graduate school. That's not medical school.
Right.
And a psychologist can either have a PhD or a PsyD, like I have, so a doctorate in psychology. And we don't prescribe medication generally, although that is starting to change a little bit. Illinois has approved prescribing for psychologists, but there's additional training and schooling required to be licensed to do that. But currently still in the US, the vast majority of psychologists do not prescribe, but it's doctoral level who can diagnose, we can do testing, we can do evaluation, as well as psychotherapy. when the term psychotherapy kind of gets used across the board, because a master's level counselor can also do and does do counseling, does do therapy. So that could be potentially somebody who's a clinical social worker. That could be somebody who has a master's in counseling psychology or a master's in clinical psychology. But at the master's level, generally diagnosing is not accepted, and you don't see evaluations or psychological testing done.
Is there any more of you out there? I mean, I have a psychologist, I have the master's degree, I have, you know, TV has given us pictures of all you guys, and all of you are one person. You're all psychiatrists, and you all sit in a chair while we lay on a couch, spill our beans, and you say nothing.
The laying on the couch is definitely on TV. My clients sit in a chair with me. But sometimes if I'm working with kids, we might be sitting on the floor, so not necessarily a chair. It's not the difference in what you see on TV and what's happening in my therapy room is that it's not a one-way conversation. On TV, it's shown a lot as the client is talking, spilling their guts, and there's somebody in the back nodding, maybe jotting down a note or two. So therapy, at least with me for sure, is not one-sided. We're both going to be discussing, but I look at my client as the one who's the expert on their life. I don't have a right to tell you what you're doing is wrong or that this is not okay. You're an adult. You have the right to make that decision. My job is I'm the expert in the field. So I have to point out to you, is this working for you? Are you happy doing what you're doing? Are you healthy doing what you're doing? Is it getting you to the goal that you're saying that you have for yourself? And if not, then what else can we do to help you get there? Are you understanding what the roadblocks are? Are you understanding that you haven't processed something that's continuing to hurt you or continuing to traumatize you? Have you really worked through your anger about something or your sadness about something or your frustration about something? And for many people, it's like, you kind of mentioned earlier that you don't want to go to a family member. When we talk to people, even trusted people with the best of intentions who are a member of our life, they can't be completely unbiased. There's going to be a bias. If nothing else, they have a bias for you to be okay. At the very, very least, they have a bias that you're going to be safe and okay.
Right.
I of course, want my clients to be safe and okay, but I don't go home with you. We don't have dinner together. We don't see each other on holidays. Our kids don't play together. And that distinction is very important, particularly in working with the Muslim community. It gets fuzzy because I run into clients at the mosque. I run into clients at the halal grocery store. I will run into clients, or even at the park. I live in an area of suburban Chicago that has, mashallah, a pretty heavy Muslim community. And I've seen clients and their families and their children playing at the park. It's important to keep the distinction, and that's my responsibility to keep. It's not the client's, because that's what allows the person to feel safe to open up. So for a lot of people, therapy is someplace where they can talk without feeling judged, without feeling stigmatized, without feeling that they're going to be, given like that "I told you so" kind of feedback that sometimes our parents or elders may give us, and especially most of our clients are Muslim at the Khalil Center. A lot of times people come and they say that we didn't want to tell anyone this because we know what I'm doing is haram, or we know that we're not supposed to be doing this, but I need to talk to somebody about it. I need help with it.
Before I go nuts.
Exactly.
Well, we have a question, and before we put the question up, there's also the added thing that if I go and seek help, they're going to put me on medication, and the medication, which can range from Valium to Thorazine and some of the harder, make you a zombie things, and it's going to take away my sex drive, and it's going to make me eat till I can't move around my house. All of those things, not realizing that all of therapy is not about medication. So let's put this question up on the screen. What if someone doesn't want to take medicine? How can we help?
losing your libido, gaining weight, these are very real concerns. And especially when somebody comes in to start out with, people don't come to us when they're feeling well. People are coming to us not doing well. So to add to that, and now you have an added sexual frustration or weight problem or sleep problem, that is never our goal. Therapists don't prescribe medication. So for my clients who are on medicine, it is not ever our first go-to, unless you are in a serious situation, such as you're fighting an urge to hurt yourself or hurt someone else, or you're actively hallucinating, you're in somehow a danger to yourself or others. Medication is never our first go-to. But there are several situations that I work with regularly where, because of a biochemical imbalance, because of a hormonal imbalance, whether it's a family history of a mental illness, whether it's postpartum situation or trauma, the same way that you can't just be strong or just diet and exercise diabetes away, sometimes you need the pharmacological help. Mental health is similar. I will say, however, that I do have clients who sometimes who don't want to try that. We'll talk about it. I'll try to give them what we call psychoeducation about it and help them understand it. I'm also pretty proactive in being contacting the physician or the psychiatrist that they're going to and making sure everyone's on the same page, because you don't see a physician as often as you see a therapist. You generally see a therapist weekly. You don't see a physician that often. But ultimately, I respect every client's, as an adult, you're right to make your decision. If you're not comfortable with medication, then we're not going to encourage medication.
On you.
Right. No. No good therapist would ever force you to do anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
If
take
someone
a break.
forces you, there's a problem there.
Okay, let's take a break. And I want to come back to some other areas of your specialty. And right after this break, let's take a break.
Billboards are popping up all over the country with an...
Our neighbors don't realize that Muslims are absolutely opposed to ISIS.
Salam. My name is Abdul Malik Mujahid. I'm an imam in Chicago.
16 shots! No me!
No justice! No me! So how do we bring up the energy which can really have an impact on the world? You need to build bridges of understanding among people, and we need to have America moving forward.
That lesson learned brought the strength of humanity to America, which is the diversity.
Mujahid Talks, only on Muslim Network TV. Faithfully connected.
We are back, and I'm talking with Dr. Saeed, who's given us some really critical information. And I want to go to, because like with physical health, everything, the mind does affect the body. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking that because of the pandemic, I have more aches and pains than I did before. Mm-hmm. So I need to shut my mind down and come see you. But how do we know when there are some symptoms, some behavioral patterns that perhaps are new, or perhaps we haven't seen before, especially during the pandemic, because we haven't been in such prolonged physical contact with one another, that we should watch out for?
Excellent question again. A lot of times people think depression means you're sad. Depression means you're crying.
Yeah.
Or
that's what the TV says. She's up against the wall, mm-hmm. Sinking down the side of the wall.
Right. But a lot of people will come to find that what they're feeling isn't necessarily sadness. It could be anger. It could be irritation. It could be frustration. It could be complete lack of interest in things, not enjoying things. Food doesn't taste good. You don't want to do anything. And for most of us, that's what depression can look like. And so we don't necessarily, get people in at that stage because they don't recognize that that's what's happening. However, when it comes to different things. So for example, when it's what we call, I guess, more serious, whether it's like bipolar disorder, addictions, those types of situations, then we have kind of more textbook answers. But for depression, for anxiety, for adjustment, for grief, for loss, it's not clear. It's not always black and white. One of the ways you can know is you're not able to shake it. Everyone is down sometimes. That's completely normal.
Right.
Everybody gets depressed sometimes. That's normal, or anxious sometimes. But not everyone gets depression. Not everyone has anxiety. If it's going on and you're not able to shake it, if the things you usually do to cheer yourself up aren't working, if you aren't able to sleep, you're not able to concentrate, you're not in the mood for anything, you're finding yourself irritable, you're finding yourself not wanting to be around people or avoiding situations, or in these days, maybe you're not picking up the phone call, you're not in the mood for the video chat, that kind of thing. You're not taking walks in the neighborhood. Those are good signs that you're not able to shake something and you're not doing well.
But we're in a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go to Starbucks freely. I
Right.
can't go to the library. I can't hang out at my favorite bookstore. I can't.
Or at least you shouldn't.
Huh?
At least you shouldn't.
Yeah. And so now I'm thinking, how can I shake it? Because things I've used in the past are not available to me.
One of the best ways of helping yourself feel better is regular moderate exercise. People who exercise regularly.
Bad word. You're talking to me who sits all day. Bad word. Go ahead.
Yeah. Regular moderate exercise, a brisk walk, is going to work wonders. Helps you sleep better, helps elevate your mood, helps you, kind of get over things sooner. Exercise releases endorphins. Endorphins help us feel happy. It's kind of that simple. But also things like just being outside, getting fresh air. You're right. You shouldn't be, I hope people are taking the precautions they need to be taking. We shouldn't be going to, our favorite stores and just hanging out the way we used to, or going to Starbucks the way we did. We need to go through the drive-through and get it quickly and go home and drink it.
But I can't go through the drive-through to Marshall's.
Right. Right. Well, which is very real, because a lot of people, that is kind of how we would, do something to put ourselves up. Retail therapy is a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. And now Marshall's is open, you can go, but it really needs to be, you need to be in and out. You need to
Exactly. I've saved so much money. It is a new depression and anxiety.
But we saw this at the beginning of the pandemic, that people were suddenly cooking more, they were baking more. People were
gain weight more.
We have, but these were ways of people coping. These are things that made people feel good. We learned family recipes. I would see ads on Facebook all the time for board games. I heard puzzles sold out on Amazon.
How about that?
Yeah. Books, things like that. So there's only so much Netflix you can watch, although that can also be a way of coping. There's nothing wrong with, watching a funny show, especially a funny show, or something that kind of like removes you from your reality for a little bit. But there's only so much television we can watch. And especially for those of us who may not live with family or may not have a lot of family, that you can see easily. Like if you have to travel, that's not advised right now. Things like calling regularly, video chatting regularly are important. It may not feel important. So I've had people say, I'm not really a talker. I don't call people much. Well, you didn't need to before, because you could see them and visit them. It's kind of more important now. In the beginning of the pandemic, we really advised all of our clients to do a couple small things that made a big difference. So keep your hygiene routine the same. Even though you're not leaving your home, take a shower every day, change your clothes every day. Don't stay in your pajamas all day.
You're kidding. I'm in my pajamas. You can't see them, but
yeah. But at least change your clothes from what you're sleeping in.
Right. I'm wondering, how does all of this work when people are in such tight spaces? And all of a sudden, 2,500 foot houses become 800 feet.
Yeah.
And your spouse is not the person you thought he or she was. And the kids are getting on my nerves because every 5 minutes something's wrong with the remote learning, or if they're doing hybrid, is which day is this? And the refrigerator has become the stop, both for kids. My grocery bills are going out of the window. I mean, I'm buying food at rates I've never seen before. How do I handle all of this?
So it's kind of it's a double-edged sword there. On the one end, we want to encourage people to have routine and have structure and have some sort of schedule to their day, because when it's wide open and we're just home all the time and there's nothing going on, there's nowhere to be and nothing to do, that can increase the feelings of being overwhelmed and frustrated and increase irritability with one another. At the same time, we encourage people to give yourself some grace, to have some patience with yourself, that you can have the schedule and you can have the routine, but we plan, and Allah plans, and He's the better planner. Things don't always come out the way we plan. So to be able to have that grace for yourself that, okay, this is what we were supposed to do. We were supposed to finish this chapter, or I was supposed to cook this, or I was supposed to clean this, or I was supposed to get this project done for work. You do the best you can. And constantly, there's been a lot of, I've seen it on TV commercials, hopefully there's more talk about it, that nobody is doing their best right now. No one's best is currently existing. Some people are thriving, but no one's doing their best because it's not possible. This is a time where all of us we don't know what's coming. There's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of frustration. Everyone is overwhelmed. Financial problems are at an all-time high right now. We know so many people who are currently unemployed and not able to take care of their financial needs. Marital problems you mentioned. Primarily, my work at the Khalil Center is marital. I work a lot with a lot of Muslim couples. We have a huge waiting list right now, which I've never seen in the years.
So I can go back to school and get a job, again.
So, we all deserve and we want our family to be our support, but your support themselves need support. So we can't be there for each other 24/7. And we need to be able to recognize that we need to take breaks. We need to be able to breathe. We need to be able to have some space. Anyone who has outdoor space until the weather holds, I encourage people to walk outside. Even if you're just sitting outside, get fresh air, wave to the neighbor across the street, but get out of your home. Don't stay inside your home all day. Don't sit in front of a TV or a computer screen all day long. Walk, be active, get out. When the weather wasn't good, or if it's raining or that kind of thing, then we have to adjust and we have to do what we can and try to, in whatever space we have, but change things up.
I like that. And that distancing sometimes might even help us spouses give each other space. You can't dump the kids anywhere, so maybe you can just get a little space from them, or let them go out in the backyard if you have a backyard,
right?
To get a little space from you, perhaps. But how do we distinguish between what is now a normal frustration, depression, anxiety, because we are in a pandemic, and what needs therapy?
Again, I'm biased, but I really do believe anybody could benefit from therapy.
Okay.
So, the biggest thing I would say would be when you can't necessarily control it anymore. So you can have a bad day and know how to shake it off when you need to.
Okay.
You can let yourself have some time and, have some ice cream or watch a show or do something that feels good to you, and then feel a little bit better. Take a bath, take a shower, those types of things, the self-indulgence type of things, self-care things that are very important for all of us to do.
Right.
But when that's not working anymore, when that's not doing it, or you're starting to dread seeing your family members, you're dreading turning on the computer, you're dreading the work that's waiting for you, that's kind of a sign that this isn't going well, and it might help to talk to someone.
So, I'm trying to think of all the scenarios I've heard lately, and you're right, television is not the place to get mental or physical health advice. People are taking their cues from, if your leg shakes, you got this So you need to talk to your doctor about getting this. Oh, and I can't get this picture out of my mind with the woman sliding down the hall, and she has anxiety, depression, and they're trying to talk about bipolar symptoms. And the anxiety part is she's running around doing stuff and everything is on the floor. The depression part is her sliding down the wall. And I'm saying, oh my goodness, that's a horrible
Yeah.
representation of what bipolar is. So I want to a little bit. I think we will take a break, and I want to come back and dig into signs and symptoms when we absolutely know that our spouses or our children must go to you. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum.
I love Adam's World because it makes me learn in a fun way. That Adam has a green face and orange hair. I like this song. I like how Adam sings. I like Adam's World because it makes me happy. What? No. 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 And here's Adam and here's Anissa. Adam is and his sister. Adam is a boy and he is really smart.
Download the new Adam's World app at adamsworldapp.com and let's help tomorrow's Muslims today.
We are back, and I have the privilege this afternoon of speaking with Dr. Sarah Said
Sarah.
Sarah. What is wrong with me? I know 4 Sarahs. Okay. Said, who is informing, she's also giving me, if you all haven't picked up on it, a little therapy session myself. But what can I say? It's free, and I'll pay you later. Check is in the mail. One of the things, as a retired professor that I would see all the time and start screaming is I had my little list, my mental list for when I saw all of a sudden, I don't know, Dana has become just disinterested. Mason no longer really pays any attention. And then I have Jamila on the other end, who in the space of an hour and a half course can go up and down. And I'm saying, okay, let me see how many times you do that before I'm going to pay attention. With younger kids, especially adolescents, fighting the throes of social media, I've had instances where I had to stop class and we have to talk about bullying. Okay. And all the ways in which kids can bully each other. Some bullying is normal until the adult steps in. You had one of my kids who was a little person. She was a biter. And this little, every darn day it was, oh, so-and-so bit me. And I'm bite her back. Please, would you bite her back? She bit her back, had no biting. Right? Now, I might have been lucky and stopped a bully in their tracks. But bullying has become the cause of so much suicide. I read about a young man, a Muslim boy, who was bullied. Apparently, he had talked to some people about it. Mom tried to get some intervention from school and was not able to. And then this kid, this beautiful young man, a young boy, really, kills himself. And I'm saying, oh my God, we as a community must move on it inside of our community, perhaps provide some models or something for other communities, because it's everywhere. And social media provides the perfect platform. I finally looked at TikTok, and it is really a TikTok. And I'm saying, what would make you, why is narcissism the rule of the day? And somebody says, oh, couldn't you do your hair better, or your body doesn't look that great to me, then you're in this perpetual funk. What the hell's going on, Doc?
You bring up a lot of really relevant and important points right now. Suicide in younger people is a growing problem. Rates in this country are higher than any of us realize. It is additionally a growing problem in the Muslim community. I remember the story about the boy that you're talking about. I believe he was from Minnesota, and tragic story. And then at the same time, the social media aspect that you bring up about how much kids are influenced by their friends, or by the likes that they get, or by the comments that they're getting. And in new ways, I mean, a lot of this stuff is being studied right now. We're still kind of understanding this, because it's a phenomenon that, while kids have always been affected by their peers, and kids have always been pressurized by their peers, not the way they are today. And, I think it was like maybe a week or two ago, I read something about something called the Benadryl Challenge on TikTok. And I haven't been on the site myself yet either, but it's, and I was talking to my siblings about it. We're all adults now, and we're thinking, like, would we have done that? Like, would we ever have taken Benadryl until we got high? Like, how is it possible that this generation of teenagers can think that that's a funny thing to do? When kids are literally getting hospitalized, or eating laundry detergent, or whatever the newest challenge is. And it's something that we haven't seen before. So there is a lot to better continue learning and understanding. And I think one of the first things I talk to parents about is when we tell ourselves, well, my kid would never do that, or my kid is smart enough not to do that. Don't believe that. Everyone's kid is smart. These are smart, intelligent kids doing really, really, really dumb things, because at the end of the day, the kid is still a kid. And they're influenced by their peers, and they're influenced by the likes that they get. And it's a kind of a high. It's a rush. When you see that a lot of people are admiring something you do, it's a rush. The same way applause can be, right? When we give a talk, or you give a lecture and everyone stands up and applause, that's a rush. Kids get that same feeling from social media, and from having people, having what they posted go viral, or having something that they said or they did, have getting so many views and whatever. So it's almost like addicting and kind of hypnotizing, that they can't stop being on it. At the same time, we don't talk enough about how important it is to learn how to be on there. The same way that when our kids are, first, second grade, we teach stranger danger, and we teach kids how to talk to strangers, and who it's, okay to talk to or accept something from. Schools and organizations are getting better about teaching, especially young kids, things like healthy touch, and who is it, it's okay to touch you, and not to ever be alone with somebody that you don't feel comfortable with, and to be letting your parents know, or someone trusted like a teacher or a counselor know what's going on. We need to have more education about social media, and healthy social media use, and safe social media use. And parents need to be much more involved. Things like kids having their phones at night, kids not having access to your kids' social media, or not having their passwords. And parents will talk about, well, I don't want to be snooping, or I want them to have their privacy. And I respect that. I do. And that's important.
I don't know. How is a kid who doesn't pay any bills, doesn't live anywhere, can't vote, get to have privacy?
Because we all deserve to feel safe, and privacy helps us feel safe. When we don't have a door in our room.
How young you are.
I'm sorry?
I can tell how young you are. I mean, as long as I'm paying your bills, as much as I want to know about you, I'm going to know.
The problem that we've seen with that attitude, though, is that kids are really good at hiding. Yeah. So when you have parents who are like, I have to know everything, and you don't get to have anything private, we learn how to hide it.
Yeah.
And what happens then is these dangerous things come out. We're talking about it. We're being open about it. I'm sorry?
Feel bad. I didn't even let my grandkids have smartphones. I mean, those that are old enough to have them until they were ready for high school. And we went through long conversations. But I see kids around me who have smartphones and they're 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying, what bill do you pay? What are you looking at? And I mean, I can understand that it's a different time. And I also understand the other side. Now, while I would say, I'm going to know everything about you, I never invaded my kids' privacy.
Right.
I'm not going to go digging through your drawers, in your chest of drawers, unless I see some behavior that puts my antenna up.
And that's the difference. That's exactly the difference, because it's one thing to need to know what's going on. It's very different to be going through drawers or reading your kid's diary, that kind of a thing.
Right.
And sometimes it feels like you might be doing something wrong, but if your antenna is up, it's up for a reason. And at that point, you need to know what's happening, because you can't help if you don't know what's happening.
So maybe those of you who are therapists need to be on call or be in our schools to give teachers guidelines, or when you see this, watch it for a minute, but only a minute, and see what's happening next. Because this young man, you don't know how that hurt my heart, mostly because I have grandkids who are his age, and I'm saying, how do I get you not only to trust me enough to tell me, because this little boy did tell,
right,
but what can I give you in terms of self-confidence, something that enables you. I don't want you to become a bully to get a bully off your back.
Sure.
But what can I give you with regard to self-confidence, to say, whatever you say is nice, and really mean it, and I'll see you later. I don't want you around me, or something. Because this suicide stuff from this social media is dangerous.
It is. I agree. Having a therapist in schools, or having a school counselor, a school psychologist, I completely agree with you, is very important. I think it's always been important. I think it's even more vital today. But unfortunately, we're seeing more and more school districts cut budgets for things like that, and have less, or have like one counselor for every middle school in the district, or that kind of thing. I previously, when I used to live in Dallas, I spent a few years as a school counselor at a private Islamic school in Irving, Texas. And it was a really unique experience, and one that I really valued and learned a lot from myself as well. But it really showed me, and this was a small school, so we're talking a small private school. It really showed me how much of a need there genuinely is, if nothing else, just to help, whether it's parents, students, teachers, understand what is happening. So we all can recognize, the kid that acts out in class, or we know that somebody's being bullied, or we know that someone is a bully. And it's kind of easy to recognize it when, this student has family problems happening, or, they had a loss or the death in the family, or the parents have divorced, to where, okay, now we get why they're acting out, or why XYZ is happening. But a lot of times, none of that's going on. A lot of times, there isn't something happening at home necessarily that's obvious, or there isn't something that's a big red flag of why is this occurring. And so to be able to kind of delve deeper requires more time. And if anything, I can tell you, our teachers are maxed out on how much they do. So to put that responsibility on teachers, to me, seems like too much, as well as the fact that they don't necessarily have that same training that
exactly.
or a counselor or a psychologist may have.
Well, I'm trying to think of, if I were a parent again with young children, I think I would be willing to pitch into a pot to have a therapist come through, especially in small Islamic schools and in other private schools, where you can put the money, the money in a pot is worth your child's life. And many of us, and even you, didn't have the plethora of social media to to deal with. And I'm watching. I mean, it's. I mean the. I have to get one of my grandkids, the oldest one, to tell me, okay, what's out there now, and you're making me think about doing a show with you about bullying, social media. I can't not do something or the little bit that we can do, because this on Zoom all the time or on the computer all the time opens up many more possibilities.
Sure. It also gives people this, you may have heard of the term keyboard warrior,
Yeah.
this courage that
Yeah.
they may not have had in person. You'll
Yeah.
see kids who will be quiet in the classroom, and then on their phones, or when they get home at night, they're posting horrible things, or they're
I
being
know.
using language they never would have said verbally out loud. So it's kind of like a shield, a protection that makes people lose their inhibitions and come out and say things and do things that you never would have thought. So I agree. It needs to be taught more as well. Literally just teaching the way we teach kind of the kids how to drive, and car
Right.
safety, teaching how to be safe when you're online. The other thing is, I don't mean to change the subject from you, but when we talk about
change it.
suicidality, in the Muslim community specifically, one of the problems is we're not immune to it. Whether it's kids or teenagers from bullying, or even adults, we're not immune to addictions. We're not immune to infidelity problems. We're not immune to suicidality. These are all problems, because Muslims are human. And so these are problems that affect all people. So to be able to understand that, first of all, this is something that we can talk about. I feel so overwhelmed that I don't want to be here anymore, or I hurt so much that I would rather not wake up. You have to be able to say that to someone. And one of the problems in our community is that because we know it's a sin, we know it's haram, we're scared to even tell someone that. So forget getting help. We won't even verbalize it. Or we consider ourselves, I must be so hated by God if I'm having thoughts like this, because how can I do that? I've had so many clients tell me the only thing that stopped me was, I know it's haram. That Allah wants mercy and love on you, that you didn't go to that level, that he made sure that you kept remembering that. But you are as worthy of compassion and love and help as anybody. The fact that it's haram doesn't preclude it from happening. It happens all the time in our community. And unfortunately, from what I've seen, it's growing. There's a growing problem. Sometimes it's addiction related, but a lot of times it's underlying depression that's not being treated or not being understood or addressed. It's definitely, we know bullying. It can be, I've seen it in domestic violence situations where, and I'm being stereotypical, but usually it's the woman, the wife, who has been abused for so long and feels so helpless that I can't get out of this marriage because the stigma of divorce, or what will happen to my kids, or the financial control that my spouse has on me. I may as well die, because at least then this will stop. Or maybe then everything will be okay, or then he'll be happy, or whatever it is. That's alarming, and that needs to be addressed. And people who are in that situation, whether it's children or adults, need to feel safe to talk to someone about it.
Yeah, because I would think that, well, I know that in domestic violence situations, you have such an abusive pattern going on. And generally speaking, they go on for a long time. And so usually women feel that I'm doing something wrong. I can't do any better at what it is, whatever it is that I'm not doing. I can't right the situation. But the effect on the children that live in that household is awesome, because then they grow up thinking that all men act like this.
Sure.
All women's response is this over here. And so you set up generational cycles of really things that are really sad. But how do we make an intervention? You get the last word. And I'm going to ask you to come back, because I'm not leaving this alone.
I'd be more than happy to come back. This is a topic I feel strongly about. I've worked with so many, generally women, but also with men. People will sometimes say that, but this is America, or they grew up here. They're not from the old country, or they're not of that generation. Why are they afraid to leave? But the reality is, ending a marriage is not easy for anyone. No one makes that decision lightly. That's just in TV. That's just in movies. Like one fight happens and you walk away and pack a bag.
Yeah.
Yeah. In real life, people learn to live with infidelity. People learn to live with financial abuse, emotional abuse. People learn to live with being unhappy and not being compatible, and find their, happiness in other things. But when it comes to domestic violence, because of those really strong stigmas and fears and isolation, it's in our community, it's compounded with a lack of knowledge, incorrect knowledge, belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to be, that you're upsetting God by ending your marriage, that you're committing a sin by leaving an abusive relationship. These are the things we work with, Dr. Aldine, and it's people who are born and raised here. It's people who are educated. It's people who have, jobs and careers and families, and you would think that you have all this support, you have money, like why are you thinking like this, or why do you do this? But it's so ingrained in our community, it's so ingrained in our culture, that it's still a very big problem.
Well, what I'm going to do is we're going to end now, only temporarily, because we're going to come back and I'm going to ask you to think about interventions, and we're going to talk those interventions down, until we can come up with something that makes people feel more comfortable. I know you all have waiting lists, and that's the folks who've been driven to the brink. But I would like to see waiting lists of people who are not yet at the brink and want to talk through stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can't thank you enough, Dr. Saeed, and I will harass you some more in the future.
I look forward to it, inshallah.
Oh, this has been great, and we will be back at this shortly. Thank you. This is Critical Talk with Professor Amina Al-Din, and I have had a wonderful 50 some odd minutes talking with Dr. Saeed and getting my own therapy session for free, and we will end here. Thank you.